It's about that time for another Secret Lair deck to drop, and these often get exciting for players because a variation of brand new artwork and a fun, full-built commander deck. Historically, they've done quite well, and this one, with some of the early previews, were awesome, with cards like Morophon the Boundless and Maskwood Nexus getting some incredibly cool alternate treatments. But there are some problems with this, and the biggest one I could think of off the top of my head is the fact that this deck costs $200. So today, we're going to go into the video looking at that $200 price point and figure out if this is even remotely worth it to buy, and what exactly Wizards of the Coast is smoking to continue justifying raising the prices of these decks. Let's get into it. Alright, thank you so much everybody for being here. Before we get started, if you do enjoy the videos, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Click the bell icon if you want to be notified when new videos are posted. And be sure to follow us on TikTok as well. I've started posting a lot more shorts content both on YouTube and TikTok, so it's a bit separate from our regular content, but it's still kind of, maybe talking about some one-shot things like commander decks or doing some Secret Lair reviews I've been doing on there. So if you want to check those out on either platform, feel free to do so. It is very much appreciated. But we're here to talk about the Secret Lair commander deck, Everyone's Invited. And this deck actually releases on May 12th as part of the Secret Lair Super Drop, which is I think called the Pencil Super Drop or something to that extent. There are 8 things being dropped total, including what I'm assuming are 7 regular Secret Lairs and then this deck. I have made some shorts about those different Secret Lairs from a price perspective if you guys want to check those out. I don't think I'm going to do like a big scale video for it because largely they're kind of underwhelming with the exception of a few. But alas, the commander deck itself is obviously the thing I think people are most hyped about, and generally I'd say with good reason. People really like when we get these cool, unique precons. There's been the Angel one, there's been the Cats and Dogs one, there was the one with Flip, and the other one whose name I can't remember that was like the dual commander. I think it was Heads I Win, Tails You Lose is what it's actually called. So I say that to say there are a lot of excitement, behind these decks, but they just continue to become more and more expensive. Now, looking at the commander deck here, basically, they talk about, everyone's been cordially invited to the launch of Secret Lair's latest commander deck. The Everyone's Invited commander deck celebrates the spirit of coming together for an epic party. With cards fit for a low-key kickback or real rager, you and every single creature type can party until the sun comes up when the Everyone's Invited commander deck drops on May 12th at magicsecretlair.com. Now, as I mentioned, this deck will be $199.99, which is more expensive, I believe, than any of the other commander decks up to this point. For a while, some of them were actually around $100, and then they went up to $150. It just seems like they're continuing to push the envelope in terms of how much they can charge and squeeze out of people before, it's just like, okay, too much, whatever, especially with Secret Lair's limited format now. My concern ultimately comes from the fact that I think this is going to sell, even though it probably shouldn't. In an ideal world, we would look at that $200 price point and tell Wizards, like, this is too much. Speak with your wallet, don't buy it, wait and buy the singles. However, the limited nature of a product like this and people just having money to spend is more than likely going to result in this selling out pretty quickly, which is a bit unfortunate because I do think it's going to reinforce, hey, we can price these decks at $200 and we can still get people to buy them, which obviously is not good for, the overall player base or any of our wallets, which is, kind of one of the main things to be concerned about when thinking about a hobby like this. Now, for the deck itself, there are 10 new art treatments of cards, and we are going to talk about them as well as their values, and then there are reprints as well. I will say I'm not going to cover every reprint in the deck beyond showing you the deck list, but there are a couple that I do think are worth noting and will likely kind of count towards the overall value of the product. So there is that, redeeming factor, I suppose. One of the big things is you should never take solely monetary value into consideration with products like this, but it is good to know, A, what you're spending, and B, what you're getting, because, otherwise at some point they could just sell you a junk deck list of 100, bad cards and charge you, $200 for it, and people are like, oh, well, the other ones sell for this, whatever. So I always say don't go blindly into anything, whether you're using my videos as a resource or someone else's videos as a resource. Just be sure to do the research before you spend the money. Now, Morophon, of course, a very, very popular card. This is a beautiful artwork. I will make no, qualms about it. It looks incredible. It is the face commander for the deck, and as the whole deck is built around changelings and creature types, obviously makes sense. Morophon himself is around $8 at the cheapest for any, existing printing at its baseline level, but this one is going to be well beyond that mark, of course, being a premium treatment. The first, real premium treatment for this card, it did have some prints in I believe it was either Modern Horizons or Commander Masters, where it had, the profile art, but it was kind of lackluster at best, and this one is really, really cool. So I do think this Morophon will do well over time, but we're looking at about an $8 reprint here. Raise the Palisade is around $9. This was actually only in Lord of the Rings, which is interesting. I didn't even think about it as a card prior to starting doing the research for this video, but it looks incredible, and it is a good card that is obviously going to work well within the deck, but also in other decks in general. So, we're just going to keep a kind of a bit of a running tally as we go here on these cards. We have Maskwood Nexus, which is just probably my favorite artwork out of everything that's been dropped here so far. It looks incredible. It's an amazing card for Kindred or Tribal or Typal, whatever the hell you want to call it, decks. And it, again, the cheapest Maskwood Nexus is about $1, but this is very clearly going to be more than that, obviously, looking at a premium level card like this. And that, I say, is interesting just to keep in mind when you're talking about purchasing these cards as singles later. Obviously, not all of them are going to be dirt cheap or even as cheap as their lowest comparable, but I'm more so thinking about the reprint value that you're getting. Now, so $199.99 is the price. You do get, obviously, a full ready-to-play Commander deck. There are 10 tokens, including 4 of which are double Rainbow Shapeshifter tokens, which I'll show you in a minute. That's obviously pretty cool. And then you do get the display Commander version of Morophon, which is really not any level of, a selling point, but I suppose if you collect those or you like that, it's certainly not terrible. Coat of Arms, probably one of the better reprints, actually, that we're getting in this entire deck. This is like a $22 to $25 card. It's extremely strong. It's not exactly super available in terms of recent reprintings, and it's generally just a really good card, obviously, for any Kindred deck. So it's a really good reprint. I'm glad it's included in here. We've usually seen at least one in each deck, so I can't complain too much on that regard. This coat of arms will probably end up being more expensive than any of the other coat of arms, and will more than likely be the top performer in the deck in terms of its value, I think. I'm fairly confident in saying that. Looking at some of the other artworks here, we've got Bitter Blossom, which again is probably another, it's definitely in the top 2 for me. I do like coat of arms a lot. As well as Maskwood Nexus, but Bitter Blossom is an extremely good card. It does a lot. It's very versatile. It was last reprinted, I believe, in Wilds of Eldraine in the special subset. It's around $15, give or take. Again, this version of it is going to be the most expensive one, barring maybe an old foil from one of the first sets it was printed in, or potentially the confetti foil from Wilds of Eldraine, but I don't love that artwork as a whole. And it's subjective, I get that, but it's again a really good card to include in here. It's a very, very playable card, and obviously because it is a Kindred enchantment, it can be searched by anything that would search fairies despite not being a creature, which is really powerful to note. And there are obviously a lot of different cards in here that will play into fairies and stuff. So just a really good card across the board. Turian Mauler is you're pretty familiar with this card if you play any Commander deck that plays Typal stuff. It's really good, but it's also pretty affordable, around $2. I will note that it doesn't have a lot of foil prints at all. It's got like maybe 1 or 2, and they're old and worth quite a bit of money. So the fact that this is going to be a foil is definitely not bad. For people that want an upgraded version, I expect this card to do well on the secondary market once it's been out for a while. So, good card. It's more than the sum of its parts here, I think, in terms of some of these choices, because even though Terrain Mauler is not like a super high demand card, a premium version of it that also comes foil that doesn't really exist otherwise is going to do well, I think. Avenger of Zendikar is a pretty cool card. It's not expensive. It's like, I don't know, I looked it up before the video. It was like $1.50. But again, premium version, good card, does a lot. I think people will want it, but I don't think it's necessarily like crazy in this deck as much as it would be in like a landfall deck. So it's probably going to be one of the easier ones to get. Kindred Summons, about a $10 card, give or take. It's not bad. Anything that allows you to put stuff onto the battlefield, especially when you can manipulate the numbers, are pretty good. But I don't expect this to be a crazy high demand card, and the artwork, while decent, isn't blowing me away here. Not to say it's not good. It's not, it's not in the top, few for me. But again, it's still a $10 card, so I'm happy that it's at least better than like a bulk inclusion. Tender Shoot Dryad, another card that's like only $2 or $3, but it has been reprinted a lot. It's an extremely good card though, very, very playable in a lot of different decks. So it's a good inclusion here, and that is kind of, you know, all you can really ask for. And then of course Sol Ring, it's a premium borderless Sol Ring. It's going to have value. It's just the way it works. Sol Ring is one of those cards that is obviously like $1 on its own, but every single premium version, whether Secret Lair or otherwise, does well over time. It's probably one of the safest investments you can make in terms of at least, you know, it holding its value for a more premium version of it. So I'm not going to complain. They do this with the majority of these decks, and it's just kind of the nature of the game. These Shapeshifter tokens are super cool. I do think, you know, they are obviously tokens, so there is that taken into consideration when we're thinking about value, but they have different styles, and I think they're all really awesome. I kind of hope they're inexpensive because it'd be cool to pick some up for other use, but we'll have to see whether or not that's the case. They're also giving another, you know, mixture of other tokens in here to go with your cards, which is cool. Here's the deck list, which I'm going to just leave on the screen briefly here. Most of the big hitter cards on the deck list were cards that we covered with the alternate variants, but there are a few notable cards in here that are being reprinted as well. First of all, we've got Black Market Connections in the deck itself, which unfortunately did not get any level of, you know, alternate art, but still it's like a $15 card, so we take that, right? We've also got Kindred Dominance, which is another $10, $11 card. Pretty good value just in terms of some little, you know, additions going on here. The land base is very lackluster, I think, especially when you're talking about a deck you're asking people to pay $200 for. Could include like a shock land, at least maybe one, maybe a triome, something to kind of, you know, incentivize people to buy it a little bit more and make it more worthwhile. I think Fabled Passage is probably the best card actually included in here, which, you know, while good, is not anything crazy. Perhaps Mutavault, but I always mix this up with the other card that is actually worth more, and I'm pretty sure this card is not worth much. I could be wrong, and I'm sure someone will call me out in the comments if I am, but I don't think it's anything crazy. One of the biggest reprints, though, is, of course, Rin and Seri. Now, Rin and Seri, if you're unfamiliar, has only been printed a very small handful of times. It's been in 2 Secret Lairs, and it's been in 1. It was a buy-a-box promo for Magic 21. So every copy of Rin and Seri is $25 or more, meaning this is actually a really good inclusion in the deck in terms of the estimated value you're going to get back. This Rin and Seri is non-foil, but it is only available within this Secret Lair deck, so it's unique in that sense that it's like it's not going to be a reprint, quote unquote, with like a planeswalker symbol. It's just, it's in there, the default frame, the only way to get that Rin and Seri in that style. So it's certainly worth noting in terms of A, being a really popular commander, and B, being a decent inclusion for a reprint. That being said, we're not looking at crazy value here, right? So what we're looking at is A, do you like this? And B, can we anticipate how this is going to perform on the market? And obviously, I don't have the ability to predict that beyond anyone else, but I do think, unfortunately, this is going to sell out. Like I said, there are just way too many highly desired cards in special treatments, but it doesn't add up to the sum of its parts, and it doesn't add up to the $200 price point by any stretch of the imagination. If we look at some of the other decks that have been printed recently, you know, you'll see that they have all typically done well price-wise, but they've also been cheaper. So if this is going to sell out at 200, what's the ceiling for it? Where is it going to go? Is it going to be 200, 300? I mean, that's hard to say, and obviously we'll have to watch out. But I guess what I will say is this: if it is something that you want to buy, you know, be vigilant, because I do expect that this will probably go relatively quickly. The good news is some of the other Secret Lairs are pretty lackluster, so perhaps there will be less cluttering around the queue. It feels like copium just to say that, but it's not a bad deck. It's just a really bad price point, and I don't quite understand the rationale behind, you know, being greedy and wanting to make more money, why they would raise it to this extent, but I like it a lot. I wish it was cheaper. I do think it's going to be one to look at singles for if you can, but I'm also worried that a few of the singles are going to end up being pretty high just because of the price point of the deck. I guess we're going to have to wait and see. So I'm going to throw it over to you guys at this point. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think of this deck. Are you planning on buying it? Are you planning on buying any of the singles from it? Do you agree that the price point is too high, or can you justify the price point? I mean, everybody's in a different situation, right? So how people spend their money is not my business. All I'm doing here is sort of putting out my thoughts on it and saying, we really got to cool it with these consistent price increases. And really, if people are really frustrated by it, you know, speak with your wallets, don't buy it, or wait. And maybe if, you know, if not enough people buy it, they see it doesn't do well, then they won't, then maybe they'll go back to lowering the price in the future. But again, realistically speaking, I don't expect that to happen, but I'll be pleasantly surprised if it does. Till next time, I'll catch you guys in the next video.